Now I recognize the gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Russell, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In dealing with the Iran nuclear issue, I'm saddened that rather than look forward to how best secure the United States from a real nuclear threat, we see a progressive attack on our entry into Iraq to cloud the issue. It is almost like the classic page from the Communist Playbook that advises admit nothing, deny everything, and make counter-accusation. I take exception to the twisted narrative that our entry into Iraq was based upon bad faith and false pretense. If an abusive neighbor attacks everyone in his neighborhood and then threatens them with total destruction, are we to believe, as progressives seem to, that we should sit idly by and not take action to secure ourselves from such threat? The truth of the matter is that Saddam had technical capacity to develop a bomb. In the summer of 2003, I have firsthand knowledge that the 1st Battalion, 36th Infantry, along with Special Operations Forces, they secured a zippy centrifuge, which is of the highest order for refinement of nuclear material, and it was smuggled out of Europe. They obtained technical drawings and hardware from the garden of Saddam's nuclear physicist, Dr. Mahdi Obaidi. Dr. Obaidi's account of Saddam's threat is well documented in his book, The Bomb in My Garden, an account the CIA describes as largely accurate and balanced. I remember, as I served in Iraq during that time, as we were hunting for Saddam, that this would be major news as the zippy centrifuge and technical drawings would come to light. Instead, it is largely hidden to this day. It is also interesting to note that senior leaders, and one in particular who relayed to me that during a major Syrian flood, he was directed by Saddam to move material to an eastern Syrian site. This was material of both a nuclear and a chemical nature. It is interesting that that very site was attacked during Operation Orchard by the Israeli Air Force, and that site was completely destroyed because they were making a nuclear reactor. Again, the silence on these issues is deafening. As one of the commanders that helped track down and capture Saddam Hussein, it is very emotional for me to hear members of this Congress condemn our efforts, but it is not surprising. From day one, as we sacrificed in the field, progressives in this Congress condemned our efforts, with progressive leaders even going so far as to declare that the war was lost while we buried our friends in the field. That steady drumbeat forced us to bury friends not only there, but ship them home and put them in Section 60 of Arlington, and then we come home to watch politicians, many still in office, destroy what we fought for. They persist even today, Mr. Chairman. I will never regret bringing a dictator to justice, and I am proud to have played a part in it. History, should we even allow it, will judge us and our efforts in Iraq kindly. I'm not sure the same can be said of Congress. Now we turn to yet another nuclear threat with Iran. Dr. Obaidi, in reflecting on our security, stated that to succeed, quote, illicit nuclear programs share a common weak spot. They need international complicity, end quote. And Mr. Rhodes and this administration, it appears he provided and they provided all of it to Iran. Mr. Rubin, how and how early did the administration start talking about minimizing congressional oversight of the Iran deal?
I am not privy to the internal discussions within the administration, but it appears from secondhand sources almost from the beginning.
I have passed the Iran Terror Financier Act, the only real effort to oppose the nuclear deal, which now sits in the Senate. And with Mr. Rhodes' exposure, the need for congressional oversight, there are key provisions in my measure, and it sits in the Senate. That language, even today, could be acted upon by the Senate that would provide us key oversight on any decisions. The President acted unconstitutionally. While he is free to make agreements and have negotiation, he is not free to bind us with treaty-like obligation. Do you think that if we pass the key provisions out of the measure that currently sits in the Senate that would increase that oversight, as was noted last week by Politico, Do you think that it would be helpful in deterring and at least making what we do have better?
Yes, and very briefly, the strongest, most effective actions that have been taken by Iran, both under the Clinton administration with executive orders and under the Bush and Obama administrations, have been the unilateral American sanctions rather than the watered-down United Nations Security Council resolutions, even though the Bush administration achieved a number of those as well.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, gentlemen, for your service, and thank you for being here today. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Mr. Russell, we thank you for your service and your sacrifice and your time serving this country, and we're better for it, and thank you.